Hey guys, Jason here with the One Stop How To Guys, bringing you episode 20 of Practical Drupal Development. In this episode, we're actually going to finish up our homepage here. Now, the only thing that we have on our homepage right now is this slider, and if we scroll down, we get nothing else. And we got some stuff in the footer here, but that's on every page. And we have this awesome slideshow and really nothing else to offer our end users on our homepage. So we're going to add two things to this. The first thing we're going to add is a small welcome message, and it's just going to be like a brief, thanks for coming to our site. Here's a little tiny teaser about what you're going to see within this site. So the way that we're going to do it on this particular setup is we are going to click edit here on this basic page. Remember, we created a basic page to serve as our home page, and then we're just kind of throwing stuff on top of that. So we're actually going to use the text field that's available to us on this basic page. And I'm just going to be pasting in some lorem ipsum here. You can add a welcome message for your site that actually is real text that has something to do with your site. But I'm just going to use some placeholder text here so that we're not waiting around for me to figure out what I want to say on this test site. So we'll add that and we'll save it. And we will get our welcome message right here. Now, right below this, we are going to place the latest posted news article. Now, if you remember, we have our website set up currently, if we pop over here to the news tab, we have it set up currently so that each article can be in one of two categories. It can either be in the Drupal development category, which is all these red ones here, or the music theory category, which is all of these blue ones right here. Now, when it comes to our homepage, we really don't care which category it is. We just want to let people know when we posted the latest news article. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put it down here below this, and we're going to have a few things within this. And we're going to have a title, the post date, the author, a short trimmed body text, a read more link, and an image. Now that seems like a lot of stuff, but it'll make sense once we get it done. And we're going to use views in order to do this. And the reason that we're kind of doing it this way is because we're going to dive into a slightly new topic in views. And I want to show you all about that. So let's cover that now. What we're going to do is we're going to come up to structure, views, and there's two ways we can do this. We can either use the news overview view that we already created, or we could create a new one. I'm just going to start fresh here, but these principles will apply if you use the currently used view. And the only reason I'm doing this is so that we don't get kind of bogged down with all of the stuff on the other one. But it is easier for now, for teaching purposes, just to start fresh. Normally, I would create this within the same news view. And in fact, you know what? Let's do that because there are some principles that we need to cover with that. So let's come in here into the news overview that we already have created here. And you can see that it kind of has some of the stuff that we already wanted. It has our image. It has our title that links over to the article, a trimmed body, and a read more link. So we're actually 90% of the way there. So what we need to do now is come up here to this little add tab, and this isn't something that we've used yet, and this is why I decided to change it up here on the fly and go this route. If we click on that add, we can add a block. Now, this is using the same view, and this view will take the master view that was created here. So whatever was created first, which would have been this page, doesn't matter what order these are in because you can change that order over here, but it will take whichever is the default one, the one we created first, and it will clone that as either another page or a block, or whatever it is that you specify in here. You can see we can have feeds for RSS feeds and attachments. So it'll clone that initially created view and make it into the new specified type that you want to have here. So now we basically have a block version of the page that we created, which isn't quite what we want. So we're going to modify a couple of things here. The first thing that we're going to change is the amount of items that are displayed. We don't want everything, we just want one. So if we come over here to this use pager and we click display all items, you'll see that we have a couple of options here. Now there's one thing, and this is why I decided to change this up, because this is extremely important and it will stop you from having a lot of frustrations down the line. And trust me, I've forgotten to do this on many occasions, and all of the work that you have done, either you have to back out and not save, or you have to go back through and change everything. And it's this 4 box here. If you make this change while it says all displays, it will change it for the page and every other block that you have set up here. Now, what we want to do is for the home page block, we only want to show one article. But on that news page, we still want to show everything. We don't want just one appearing there. So the way to make sure that you don't override all the other stuff is to simply click this box and do this block override. Now, this will make the change specifically for the view that we're working on and not everything else. So what we want to do is display a specified number of items, and if we click apply there and change this from 10 to 1 and hit apply here, you'll see that we only get 1 down here. Now, had we not checked that box, this page here would also then only display a single item. And that's why we overrode that. And we're going to be doing that a lot within this view because we don't want to be making these changes to both of these sections. We only want to make them to this. And you can see when something is overridden because its text will become italicized. And that just lets you know, hey, you overrode this, so this change isn't going to happen everywhere. Now, there's another thing that we have to do. We have to get rid of this little exposed filter here. So to do that, we're just going to click on the exposed filter that we set up prior. We're going to come up here to all displays, make sure we override, and then remove it. And you can see how this could quickly become a problem if you forgot to override it, because now the exposed filter that we set up and took some time learning about would be gone, and we would have to go back through and set that up again. And I promise you, throughout the course of your site building, if you're only building one site or if you're building multiple sites, you probably at some point will forget to do that. I've been building sites for a few years now, and trust me, I forget to do it. You're moving quick. It happens. If you cancel and don't save the view, those changes obviously will not be permanent. However, anything that you set up will be gone, so just really pay attention when you're doing those kind of things. Now, the sort criteria is set up to the post date, descending, so the newest article is going to be the one that is going to be shown, and that's exactly what we want here. Now, what we want to do now is actually set up so that we can see when this article was posted. And we want this actually to be available on both these views because we didn't set that up. How do people know when this article was posted until they go into it and see it on the submission information? So let's make it so that people can see it right from the article's overview and right from this featured article kind of thing that we have set up on the homepage. To do that, we're going to come up here to add. And in this box, we are going to search for post date. If you start typing in post, you'll see it, the content post date, the date that the content was posted. We want that, and we are going to apply that. We don't need a label, but if we wanted one, we could use it. For now, I'm actually going to leave it on so that people don't just see a random date, they know what it's for. Now, there's a couple of things in here you can do, and these are just the different date formats. You can read through these if you want. Some of them have these nice little examples of what they look like, but for us, we're going to select this custom one because I want you to be able to see how you can set up custom date formats. If you see this PHP manual here, and if we open this in a new tab, this is extremely helpful. It lets you know what these correspond to. So, When you're entering in a custom date format, you have all of these different letter options, as you can see as we scroll through here. And they specifically output different pieces of the date. For example, a lowercase d will output the month with 2 digits with a leading 0. And then over here you could see the example of what that's going to end up looking like. So that's one that maybe we want to use. So I know the format that we're looking for here is MDY. Now, the lowercase y will output just the last 2 digits of the year, and the capital Y will output the full 4-digit year. And I want to use the capital Y for this. But you can come over here and you can kind of check this out, look through it, and see what exactly it is you want to use. There's stuff in here for time, the actual time, that like hours and minutes of which the article was posted, and you can just combine these in all different kinds of ways to output the date format that you're looking for. Now, the dashes and things in here are arbitrary. They will print out, but they don't like print out anything specified other than what they are. So what we're going to use are some periods in here. We're going to get rid of these dashes. So we're going to have month, period, day, period, year. So let's go ahead and save this and see if that actually turned out that way. And it sure did. You can see month, day, year. Now, we need to move that up below our title. So we're just going to go in here to rearrange. We're just going to click and drag, move it up, and click apply. And there it's moved. Now, there's another thing in views that I want to talk to you about, and it's something called relationships. Now, relationships kind of bridge the gap between different things, and this will make more sense here in a minute. Let's say we wanted to let the people know who this article was posted by. Well, if we come in here to add, and we look for author, all we get is this author UID. Now, what the UID is your user ID. So, for example, with my user currently, if we output this, we are not going to get a user name, we are going to get a user number. So you can see here that it's printing out UID 1. Now that's really not helpful at all to anybody who's looking at your site. They don't care what user number you are. They have no idea what that means, and especially if you don't put anything like posted by or anything like that, all the people are going to see is a number. And that is not at all what we want. We want the username, but that wasn't available in our drop down here. I mean, the only thing that we had available to us when we typed in author was just this UID, the last comment the author made, the last comment UID. It's nothing really helpful. So what we can do is we can click this advanced tab here, and we can add a relationship. Now, what this relationship is going to do is it's going to bridge the gap between the article itself and the user who actually wrote the article. So for right now, these pieces of information are somewhat separate. The article knows enough to know that it was posted by author 1, but it doesn't really know anything more about that author. You got to remember that the content type is kind of like an entity of its own self. It's not an entity necessarily because that is something completely separate in Drupal, but for the point of this, we can say that the article itself is an entity type of its own. It's kind of off on its own island, and so is the author. The author is kind of off on the right island while the article's on the left island, and the only pieces that these two things know about each other are, well, author 1 posted this piece of content. Author 1 posted a content type of type news. But that's all it knows. So what the relationship does then is it builds a bridge between those two different islands and allows you to feed more information from one island to the other. In our case, we have a news content type that knows just enough about the author to know its author ID. Well, now what we're going to do is we are going to bridge that gap to the author and start feeding it more information, such as the author's username. So it knows that ID. It says, hey, go find this author, go across this bridge and find the author with this ID and start feeding me back information about this author. So in order to do that, we need to come in here and we need to this relationships tab, and we need to add a relationship to the content author. Now, this identifier is somewhat arbitrary. It can be whatever you want it to be. It just helps you identify throughout different places where you're using these relationships, which relationship you're using. Sometimes you get lucky and it sets you up one like this author one did. Other times it's really long strings of text, which kind of don't help you at all. So you can change this. You can make it a capital A if you want. It doesn't really matter as long as you know what this relationship is. So we're going to click apply. Now, when we come back over here to add, and we type in author now again, you can see that we get a little more information. Now, this relationship isn't really feeding you out a whole lot more because we didn't set much up for our users. But what you can see is that here are the three that we had before. Now we've bridged the gap and we have the ability to add the username. It's feeding more information. So we click on the username, click apply. We're going to take the label off of it, and you can see that it's using this relationship. Now, this particular field must have this relationship. It doesn't have a choice, so you don't have the option to turn that relationship off. Some of them you do, and in the advanced series, we are going to be covering relationships like crazy. But for this one, just know that you can't turn this off because it requires that relationship in order to be able to set up. Now, we're going to take the link off of the user page because we don't need to send anybody to that user page. We just want to let them know who posted it. Maybe you have multiple people blogging on your site and somebody likes to follow a particular author. Well, this gives them the opportunity to know that this author posted this article and I really like reading them, so I want to find all the articles that they posted. So that's fine. We click apply. And now you can see that it says One Stop down here because that's who posted this article. Now we're going to move this up here. And we're going to move it above the post date. And we're going to do something a little different. We're going to use the rewrite results that are available in views. Now, this can be a kind of a confusing topic, and I know we're covering a lot here, but I want to move on and push this series a little bit so that we can get kind of the intro stuff out of the way so we can really start diving into some of the deeper concepts that Drupal has to offer. But we got to know these different things. We are going to click the username again, and we are going to exclude it from the display. Now, this is just not going to post this piece of information, and you can see down here that it's in this list, but it's not visible here, and there's a reason we're doing that. If we click on the post date, what we want to do is we want to rewrite this field. We're going to turn the label off, and we want to rewrite this field to be one field. And this field is going to contain some text that we enter manually, the value for the author, and the value for the post date. And this will make sense here in a second. So we are going to rewrite the output of the field. And we are going to type in by, and then we need to get the author's name that we had just set up. Now we can use these replacement patterns here, and this is brought to us thanks to the token module that we installed a long time ago and haven't really used yet. Now what these are token values that will allow us to insert this token and it will be replaced by the value that that token holds. So for example, in our case we have one article and we want to use the user's name. So we are going to take this token value here, including the square brackets, and we're going to place it in here. Now what this will do is this will say by. It will replace this token with the value found within this article. So this will actually read out by one stop. Now this is a little bit more useful when you have multiple people, because I could hard code in by one stop because I'm the only user on this site. However, if you have multiple users, you have multiple bloggers, you can't predict that kind of information. So we say by, we insert the name token. The name token then looks at the current article that it's on, and it pulls the author and replaces that token with the author name. So it's kind of like a variable that stores the information about the article. And now we are going to say on, and we are going to use the created token here and have that replaced for the post date. Now the reason that we're doing this, we could easily just put the author above and the post date below and just let it do its thing, but this will output this all on one line. It's going to be one string of text, and that's going to make theming this when we get into the CSS a whole lot easier, because now we're not floating one field and trying to line them up and get them to match up. No, now it's all outputted on one field. So when we apply this, you'll see this post date down here now changed to by one stop on this date. And since we purposely did not override the relationships or the fields adjustments, when we click back on this page, you're going to see that those different things that we did have also been done here. And that's okay. We didn't override it because we wanted this by and post date information on this view as well. So now you can start to see where the power of views really is coming in. This just saved us the time of having to do all of those steps twice just to get the same result. We were able to do it to one view, we didn't override, and it did it across the board exactly the way that we wanted it to. So now if we save this, we have our news block done. And all we have to do is come into our structure after Drupal refreshes here, our structure blocks, scroll down here to the bottom to the news overview, and we are going to add this to the content. Save that up. Close that down, and our news article has been added to the content. Now the thing is, it is also added to every page, which is not what we want, so we need to come into the gear icon, click configure block. Only on the listed pages, we're going to use that front trick that we've used in the past, that we used on our homepage slider as well. And that will post this only to the front page. And there it is. And now it is not on the about page, which is exactly what we wanted. Now, I know that we covered a lot in this tutorial. In fact, we're going to do one more thing. We're just going to change the title of this view to recent news. So we're going to click that. We're going to override this title so it doesn't change the other one. Just going to call it recent news and save that out. Jump the gun there a little bit, got a jQuery error. And there we go. Now it says recent news there, and it should say just news on this page. Cool. All right, now I know we covered a lot. We dove into some quick views things that we probably could have spent a little more time on, and in the next series we will spend a lot more time on. If you are confused in any way, shape, or form, feel free to comment on this video. Shoot me an email at onestophowtoguys@gmail.com. That's always included in the comments below. I would love to answer any of the questions that you have. If you're stuck on this whole thing about rewriting and why we would use it, if you're stuck on these relationships and how they work, bridging the gap between these different pieces of content, please feel free to send me an email and I'd be glad to help you out. If I get enough emails on the same topic, I'll just post a new video concerning that topic and really dive into it a little bit deeper. So shoot me any questions that you might have. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and I will see you in the next episode of One Stop How To Guys Practical Drupal Development.